Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
When I was a little boy, I thought nap time was basically a punishment. Now, as a grown-up, boy, does it feel like a small vacation. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, locally owned and operated, 734-6969. And now, without further ado, the lovely Gina Jameson. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning to you.
Hey, I got to tell you this real quick, and let me know if you can hear this, but my dear friend Kilt Man brought me a stress head. I'm not kidding.
Stress head.
A stress head. Listen to what it says.
Okay.
Relax, calm down now. Don't stress. Take it easy.
Did you hear that?
I did. Whose voice is that?
I don't know. It's inside this little dummy with his eyes crossed and big teeth shaking and everything and hair standing straight up, and it says, relax, take it easy. So no more stress. I won't. I promise I will be cool hand Luke, but I'm not going to eat 37 eggs.
No. Cool, calm, and collected, baby.
Right.
Cool, calm, and collected.
Hey, do we have a pledger?
Speaking of Kilt Man, he's on for the pledge.
You're kidding me.
Michael Rogers on for the weather.
All right. Kilt Man, good morning to you.
De-stress. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, man, God bless you. I got a little old stress head right here on the table with me.
You can use all the help you can get.
I do. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too.
All right. Hey, it's time for the weather. And the weather is brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Wonderful people. And here's something that you need to know. Don't be afraid of mixing up your seating at the dining table. Use 2 to 3 different chair styles to have an eclectic feel to your dining space. Nothing like having an eclectic feel to your dining space. They know all about design and how to make your interiors look better. Why don't you just check it out today? Cheney Flooring and Home Design, and all the newly refurbished furniture, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Not a bad morning to start off a Tuesday. Still got some of the fog around, but sunrise wasn't really that bad. Just a few clouds in the air, too, in the morning, everybody. 35 in the Magic Valley. You have a slight chance of rain for today. That's going to kick into a rain for tonight, and then you'll start to taper off as you work your way to Wednesday. Daytime temperatures 46 for the high, 35 for the overnight low. 40s and 30s will be the highs and lows throughout the remainder of the week. Saturday is looking good with a lot of sun thinner, little clouds. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. And it's brought to everybody this morning by Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, 678-6945. Hey, don't forget Thursday is a big, big day. Not only here on our program, but at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley, 678-9411, the number to call, because that's sale day at Burley Livestock Sale Yard on Thursdays. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy all serving you the sale that works for you. 10 a.m. starting time on Thursdays. The best livestock sale is the Burley Livestock Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue. Calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And let's see, I've got some unfinished business I have to take care of. Let's see, where did I put that note? I had it right here on my desk, which therein lies the problem. I must have moved it earlier this morning. Did you hear? I got an update on what happened with the teacher in New Jersey that Gina and I were talking about yesterday. The 62-year-old teacher that was slammed to the floor by a 16-year-old. Why was he slammed to the floor by a student 16 years of age? Well, because the teacher had told the boy not to use the cell phone in class. Okay. And the boy refused, so the teacher took the phone away from him, and the student attacked the teacher. Now, there were a lot of questions as to why the teacher did not try to even defend himself. And the video clearly shows that the teacher did not fight back or do anything to ward off his attacker. And I listened to so many commentators yesterday saying, why? Why didn't he defend himself? Because this teacher was absolutely afraid he would lose his job and lose his pension in a no-touch-the-students policy. So he took a beating. This is absolutely ridiculous, and these punks should be decked and decked hard. No person, I don't care what line of work they're in, I don't care what they do, I don't care where their circumstances are, no person should be forced to take an assault and injury from a beating. No person. And I certainly hope that the charges of assault and battery and everything else are brought forth against this punk, and they really deal harshly with him and others like him. No teacher, anywhere, anytime, or anyone should be subjected to that for fear of losing their job if they defend themselves. No teacher should ever have to go through that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just can't imagine. Gina, are you right there? I want to ask, picture this. If that was Minico or Burley or Declo or Raft River, it doesn't make any difference where it is. How could any school board stand up against a teacher for defending themselves when they are being viciously attacked and taking a beating?
Wow. The school board should be actually supporting said teacher instead of knocking him down, essentially.
Well, there's no person, I don't care if it's male or female. I don't care what the circumstances are. When you're in that classroom, my feeling is that teacher is absolutely the commander-in-chief.
Well, he is, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way it always has been, at least when I went to school.
But nobody should be subjected to taking a beating and taking an assault without defending themselves.
Agreed. And so what you're telling me is the school board is not backing the teacher.
Doesn't sound like it. And this really scares me. Don't forget SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. The number to call, no contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data. And don't forget they are the best, and they serve you. Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet, SafeLink Internet. You call them right now today and tell them Zeb sent you. 677-8000, SafeLink Internet, absolutely the best. As is Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I love these folks. They are so nice, so generous and helpful, and they will help you with all your cleaning needs. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew, they will get the job done right. Daryl's Cleaners. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. I really and truly don't think it's so much the school board putting down punishment as it is the parents. My daughter is a teacher, and she does not dare touch one of her students.
Well, that's the whole point.
way.
Helen, that's the whole point I'm getting at. We have a no-touch Johnny and Susie policy, and these students think that they're kind of the Terminator. They can go in and do whatever they want, but no teacher should ever be liable and susceptible to taking an assault and battery.
No, they shouldn't. But it's not the school board that sits down on them. It's the parents that come in and cause so much problems.
Well, it's both, Helen. It's not just the parents and it's not just the school board, but there has to be a communication that, hey, when you've got a punk that's going to a high school that is going to stand up and throw down on his back of his head a 62-year-old man that's trying to teach the class and have some rules and regulations, and he can't protect himself because he's afraid he might lose his job and his pension, there is something wrong with this picture, Helen.
Yes, there is. But how many parents will admit that their kids are damn bullies?
Well, now therein is, I think, a majority of the problem. But you've got little Johnny that's so perfect in the eyes of his parents. You've got a school board that is so afraid of being sued by parents and having a whole great big mess at the school that they issue these edicts that basically put the teachers as a target.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Things need to change desperately.
I wonder, Helen, honestly, and please understand where I'm coming from, if it's not already too late.
Very possibly it is, and that's what's so scary.
It is. I fear for your daughter. I fear for teachers. I fear for schools. Because as we look at what's going on, whether it's New Jersey or whether it's in Florida or whether it's in Chicago or L.A., we're seeing this. It's not an isolated incident. It's happening all the time, Helen.
No, and it's getting closer and closer to where we are.
It is.
That's what's scary.
It is. But for a teacher to have to stand there, I watched this video and I was shocked. The man was being carried around the room and thrown down on the back of his head, and he didn't do anything to defend himself because of his job and his pension.
Right. You know, that's what they're working for, is the job and the pension.
Well, and you can't blame that attitude, but I mean, my goodness sakes, this man was subjected to a beating because he couldn't touch little Johnny.
No, but he can sue him.
I hope so. Thank you, Helen. God bless you.
That's just really scary. And things have got to change.
All right. Thanks, Helen.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. If you call over there and tell them what you need, they'll have it waiting on the counter for you. That's right, including all your furnace filters. They've got the quality air furnace filters for your furnace to do the job for you. Please take care of your furnace. It's lonely down there in the basement. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. And I know somebody that's having a good time this morning. They've got a huge shipment of camo clothing that's just arrived. Like I said, you can stand in the middle of the room and nobody will see you. Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Yes, sir. And all the way through February 1st, they've got all their cinch clothing clearance priced, and all boots are 20% off. Wow! You'd better get in there, and all the fishing equipment and everything for this next season, well, you stop at Valleywide Home and Ranch, and don't forget they've got a huge Valentine's deal coming up in a couple of days. We'll tell you more about it. Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Okay, here's a story that we need to talk about because initially when this all started, we had our doubts. And when I say we had our doubts, we had our questions, and we had information that was being supplied to us here by various sources that said, this doesn't pass the smell test. I'm talking about the case of Bo Bergdahl from Haley. I'm talking about a lot of the situations and comments that were made over the last couple of years that all that glitters is not gold, and Bo Bergdahl, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, was not the soldier that a lot of people thought he was. It looks like now, finally, after the studies and the report has been finalized, and by the way, this information has been basically slowed to a snail's pace because of the Obama White House. They do not want this out. Bo Bergdahl is going to be charged with desertion. And there has been also, and I'm not going to cover anything up on this program, there have also been some of the comments that there is the possibility that he was also, and again I said, the possibility and allegations that he was possibly also a traitor. Now, the retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, who works now for the London Center for Policy Research, has said that the Army has come to its conclusion and Bo Bergdahl will be charged with desertion. But Army spokesman Paul Boyce has come out and said that there is no change and that it is an ongoing review at this time. Well, a lot of Americans have been writing and calling and asking their senators and congressmen, how come this report has basically been stifled? Well, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer said and came out and said there's a huge battle going on inside the Obama administration by some, and namely one of those somes is a guy that's a White House staffer with a lot of power by the name of Ed Rhodes. Some are trying to suppress this development that's going on this story. Tony Schaefer said that the Army wants to do the right thing, but, here's the but, the White House wants this story to go away. What are your thoughts about this? What do you think about this? I was embittered about this story for a long time. I'm not going to mention some of my friends' names that I've talked to and worked with on the East Coast, and I'm not going to mention any names of people that questioned with me what was going on right here from the Bergdahl family, and then also other thoughts about Bo Bergdahl. For the last, I'll say well over 2 years, there's been a lot of questions about this. And another thing that has come to light and caused a lot of friction is why? Why did Obama, knowing the facts and knowing the allegations, why did Obama basically cozy up to the parents and have that rose garden narrative with the wife and the husband standing there next to him and his arms around both of them, and then, of course, the great big 5-prisoner swap in the middle of all this controversy? Why? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
As far as I'm concerned, if they let this pass without using military justice, which most of the veterans know, when you sign, raise your hand and give that oath to protect the Constitution of the United States, we meant it. And if they try and stonewall this to where you take a traitor and a deserter in the time of war, that is a military offense and is done by death.
Al, no.
Follow the law.
Al, I agree with what you said up to the point of some of the verbiage. Now, we want to make sure, and I will demand that we keep the allegations out in front. Number one, it has been ascertained that he did desert, according to the report. However, it is not a concluded allegation that he was a traitor. That is something that still has to be ascertained. So let's be real careful about definitives here. But everything else you you said I absolutely agree with.
Well, desertion is a death penalty.
I know it is.
Time of war.
I know it is.
Well, I can tell the White House and them to keep their damn nose out of it and let the military handle their military people like it's supposed to be done.
Isn't it odd that through all these allegations and all these basics that were added onto this story, and a lot of people knew about the desertion charges long ago, how many deserters have you ever seen been given a priority as a desk job?
None.
Yeah.
What gets me is how many lives was lost going looking for that guy after he deserved his companions.
You know, that's something I'm having a hard time working through. I look at the families, and I've read a lot of the detailed accounts from some of his fellow soldiers that served with him, and some of those were killed looking for him, and this is a hard and very bitter pill to swallow.
I know it, and I mean, it's getting worse every day, and if this administration keeps insisting on turning these damn terrorists loose, I'm telling you what, I'm getting sick and tired. Boehner, do your job and go after them like you're supposed to be doing, instead of sitting there yawning at the church social.
Hey, let me ask this question of you. Give me a short answer on this, Al. I've said for a long time on this program, and I'm going to stand behind this, even though I do not know all the ins and outs of the military, but I will say this, that the more that we give prisoner swaps, the more there are going to be takings by the Taliban and ISIS and other terrorists. What's going to prohibit them from just basically having a wholesale kidnapping routine, knowing that we're going to negotiate by giving up people?
Nothing. That's the trouble. We're giving too much to them people, and our policy is do not negotiate with terrorists in that.
I agree. Al, again, thank you, sir. Caller number 2, I'll be right there. Bear with me and have some patience. I'm running a little bit behind here. Berry Equipment and Rental, don't forget, they will be at Agra Action February 5th through the 7th at the CSI Expo Center. And Eli's working on really good deals for you to buy a loader right there during that Agra Action. Oh, boy, and all the equipment you need to get the job done and get it done right. Berry Equipment and Rental, Eli, Nick, the whole crew, 3 locations, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, along with South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Absolutely the best. Berry Equipment and Rental. Stand by, caller. I'm a-coming. Don't forget, too, Denny's Restaurant. My goodness sakes, we always have great meals at Denny's Restaurant. Yes, 611 Overland in Burley. Walk in the door. The service is friendly. The people are so kind to you and so gracious. The menu, all the delicious different items, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're going to love it. And they've got another location, too, brand new location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Really good people with great food. Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. The reason why nobody hears about any of this stuff with Bergdahl is the Obama administration is trying to cover it up, because in my opinion, I think it's treasonable what he did releasing those 5 Gitmo prisoners. Mm-hmm. And he's releasing more. You know, people don't realize what he's doing behind the scenes. We had a friend when this whole Bergdahl thing came out. We know the Bergdahls. And he said there's more to the story than you think. And he was right.
Oh, absolutely. Now, may I also say that I was involved in a lot of the conversations about Bo and what he had done or had not done and how he had treated his fellow soldiers and everything. And these stories had permeated a long time ago. I don't want people to think that all this just came to the forefront now. As you well know more than anybody, these stories have been lingering and hovering above us for, I would say, over 3 years?
Oh, at least. And, you know, deep in my heart, I was hoping for the best, you know, that he was, you know, just being stupid, got drunk, and got kidnapped. But in my reasonable mind, it was like, no. He walked off the base voluntarily. He was a sympathizer.
Yeah.
He didn't like what we were doing over there, and that's a fact. And then last year, when his soldiers testified to, he walked off the base. He sent things home to a private person before he walked off that base.
Yeah.
He was looking for the Taliban to help them, and even though they weren't directly linked to him, I mean, they would go out on maneuvers, but they were told, you have to look for him every time you go out. So all those young men and women who lost their lives were looking for that deserter.
I'm having a real hard time with this story because there were certain individuals in this area that had basically, I'm not going to say it was a threat, but they had basically sent emails and some conversations, etc., telling me to shut up and let this story go. And that would not be fair to other soldiers that I know that served over in the Middle East. That's not a fairness to them whatsoever.
No, and he put all the good that we did over there and continue to try to do in jeopardy.
Yeah.
He made that choice. He needs to be tried in the military court, not the civilian court,
right.
The military court.
Right.
And he needs to be punished for what he did.
But there's more to this, though, Donna, and I'm running late on my schedule here, but there's more than one individual and or groupings of individuals that need to be held accountable for this, and quite frankly, I'm pointing my finger right at the Oval Office of the White House.
You betcha. You got to start at the top and work down.
Amen. I got to run. Thank you so much. I appreciate your call.
You betcha. Have a great day, my
Thank
friend.
you. This is a story that I'm not going to run away from, and I'm not going to have... there are people that are absolutely committed to the fact that they think Bo Bergdahl can walk on water and that they can do no wrong, and that because he's an Idaho youngster and now man, that we should leave him alone. I will not. This story is one that I absolutely, I'm going to stick with, because a deserter and or possibly even a traitor, I don't care where they're from, it needs to be brought out and amplified as to how serious this is. My goodness, I got to run. Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. They've got the best of customer service, absolutely, and drive-through recycling, and they're protecting our resources. This is an employee-owned company, Pacific Steel and Recycling, and they really, really care about you. And by the way, too, they also carry trailer parts, and they sell new steel, angle iron, flat, tubing, etc. They've got it all for you at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. Highly pathogenic bird flu has struck a commercial turkey flock in California's Central Valley, escalating the virus threat to the U.S. poultry industry. The U.S. Department of Agriculture confirmed that H5N8 bird flu has been confirmed in Stanislaus County. Foster Farms, which has several poultry farms in the county, said it detected the virus during routine testing and alerted the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. The virus was confirmed in one turkey house with 9,000 birds and is related to avian influenza strains previously found in migrating ducks in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, California, and Utah, according to a report by the World Organization for Animal Health. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner. For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Hey, give me a call, 436-2244. Thank you, Capital Press. Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Wonderful folks. Call them, 678-2321. Give me a jingle on your telephones. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I've got some other stories. I got one in particular I want to get on here in just a minute. Don't forget Scow's CarQuest, auto parts and truck parts, Scow's Incorporated, Rupert, Hayburn, and Burley. Every detail matters. And don't forget, Jeff's going to be on the air with us on Thursday. Sign up today for the Fleet Filter Survey. Great way to save time. When something breaks down this spring, all you have to do is call Scow's and find out about the survey, please. And they've teamed lined up with Baldwin filters, best heavy-duty filters out there in the industry. Check it out at Scow's CarQuest Centers, 323 East 8th Street on Highway 25 in Rupert, 518 Overland and Burley, and the big truck center, Scow's Truck Center at 3, and that's, of course, I-84 exit 211, easiest way to tell you to get there. And, of course, every detail matters at Scow's CarQuest Centers. Really good folks. All right, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We don't know too much, if any at all, as to what's going on with this Obama administration and their dealings, whether it be with Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, or ISIS. Now, the more I study what's going on with this administration, and I'm going to just tell it like it is, shoot from the hip, I don't trust this White House leadership nor the underlings in this administration. For some reason, we are kowtowing and we are bending to the needs and wants of these sick, perverted people that are nothing better than vermin crawling around in the corners. I don't know why we're negotiating with these people. I don't know why we're caving into them. And I've got this fear that they are under the control of these terrorists. Maybe, by turning these people loose, they think they're going to delay or possibly stop any more attacks on this country. I hope we're not at that position, where this administration has bent and finally broke, and the bad guys have us under their thumb. But let's just use common sense here for a minute. If the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, or ISIS go out and capture, like they did the Japanese, and like they did journalists, and like they have others, and make their demands, or they're going to behead them. They are doing exactly what they said they would do, and then if they do get the money, they're in a win-win situation. So the more people that we have that are in jail or prison right now, that are their brethren, that means that these guys are making threats that we're going to go out and we're going to kidnap anybody, go get them, and we're going to hold you, United States, ransom until you give us our people for your people. And all this is going to do is create more kidnappings, more problems, and absolutely destabilize the world. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, we have major security problems all over the world, including this country. And here we have this fool in the White House is going to spend the rest of his 2 years traveling around the world. And he has accomplished nothing, and from now until he gets out of office, there'll be nothing accomplished about this terrorism.
Tony, you used a word, and I'm past that. I used to think that he was a burned-out light bulb and a very bright fixture, but he's not. I am convinced that Obama is not a fool. I am convinced that he's not stupid. I am convinced that he is very insidious and that he has an ideology that is not for the American people and its Constitution.
Well, Muslimism is in his genes, and there's no getting away from that. And if anybody thinks that he's an Americanized person, they're crazy. He's for the Muslim religion, and nothing else.
Would you care to tell me this morning, give me 30 seconds of national and international policy for our security and safety? What are they doing? I mean, my goodness, there are more threats today than ever before. Our allies are being stepped on like a doormat. We're losing places of security around the world. Look at Yemen. Yemen now is nothing but a hotbed for terrorism. What is this administration doing?
Well, these people who voted for Barack Obama put somebody in office that is destroying this country. He has no business ever becoming president of the United States and destroying a country that has been the leader of the world for 200 years.
I'm concerned. I'm worried. And then you talk about the Bo Bergdahl case and the cover-ups and the, oh boy, we don't want this information out. What kind of an administration do we have running this thing?
We don't, he's not running it. You guys like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, the Black Panthers, and that bunch are the ones he's going to. And, of course, the United Nations, that he's going to them for advice on how to run this country.
Yeah. I got to run and take another call. Tony, God bless you, man. Thank you.
Okay, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
You know, I look at the situation with this president and some of his cabinet members, and it to me, it has come across that they are ISIS sympathizers and have a soft spot for them. Just by their actions over the years, they've alienated our closest allies, pushed them away, tried to become friends with our worst enemies who do us the most harm in a blink of an eye, and they have no concept or don't care one way or the other about it.
I just, I don't know. I have been criticized by people that said, well, you don't have respect for the president. Well, I've got to be honest. I can't lie to my audience. No, I don't have respect for Obama. And then they'll fire back and say, well, that you shouldn't be that way because you should respect the office of the president and the president himself. He has denigrated the office of the presidency. I did not. He did. By being a person that's not standing up for the values and the Constitution of this country. I don't like the man. Way back before 2006 when he was running, I said I didn't care for him at all. I did not want to see him be president. And bang, right away, the liberal loons on the left came out of the woodwork and said I was a racist. But at the same time, those nincompoops didn't understand or listen that I was supporting Condoleezza Rice. We've been through this 1,000 times. I don't like this man. I don't trust this man. And I think his legacy will be he really hurt America.
You know, it's like I said, I look at the way he's done things. And he has no ambition at all to help us. None at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
He don't care one way or the other about what happens here. What he's worried about is getting his friends more money, and he's using all the left side of it, the left side, to use as propaganda and push propaganda while he's sympathizing with ISIS and, oh, okay, well, you know, you're my friends, and we just won't say anything about it, but here's your buddy's back.
Yeah.
I really think that's the way he's going, and he's trying to demolish our military strength to the point we won't be able to protect ourselves. He dang near got it done. But anyway, I need to let you go.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
There is no other phone call.
I heard a cow.
No, you're one cow behind.
Oh, that's quite a statement. You made me laugh on an otherwise serious morning. Think of what you say sometimes, all right?
Well,
you know, Gina, I got to tell you, you are the biggest blessing that ever happened on this program. You are such a great board operator. I trust you implicitly, but every time you open your mouth, there is a little trickle of sweat that comes down my forehead.
Yeah, I had a couple people comment on something that I had said last week that gave you a pause.
It was more than a pause. It was kind of one of those deals. It was a shudder shake.
But you know that's what makes great radio is when you when we have fun like that, Zeb, especially when you're talking about football.
Let me tell you something though. I can get into a very sticky situation on my own. I don't need you pushing me.
Really, you don't need any help because I'm more than willing to help you out. Anytime you need some assistance in that fashion.
I am going to call John Ellis, and I'm going to ask him for a cutout of what you said just a little bit ago so I can keep playing it over.
We need to get just a cutout of all of the papers and stuff, and we can make a promo out of it.
There you go. No, because then we definitely would be assailed by the FCC.
But that's what makes great radio.
I can, honestly, there are times that I can envision the look on Kim Lee's face as he's driving down to the station having this program on, and I can see him all of a sudden double grip the steering wheel with a look of panic on his face like, I've lost it all!
You know, I know that man well enough that he just looks at the radio, he looks ahead, he shakes his head and says, oh, Gina, he keeps on driving. I know that man well enough that that's exactly what he does. That's exactly what he does.
He has a better approach to stress than I do.
He goes golfing, I think. That's how he relieves all of his stress. Oh, that could be Kim.
That probably is. Check on that. I'll check on it, and then I'll do the weather.
Okay.
It's probably Kim saying, you know that contract you've got with me? Well, we just ripped that puppy up. Let's see if it's going to be on the air for me.
Actually, it's for you. It's not Kim.
Okay, I tell you what. Ask the caller, please. Why are my hands sweating? Ask the caller, please, if I can do the weather, and I'll be right there, okay?
You got it. Not a problem.
Weather forecast this hour brought to you by Red's Trading Post at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Oh, my. All the new firearms, Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester. Oh, they've got it all. All the ammunition, all the accessories. And if you're looking to trade in your firearm, they'll give you a free appraisal on your gun. You better stop in today. Excellent people at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Great business. Ryan and the rest of the crew at Red's Trading Post in Twin, serving you. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zebedee Ranch. Get some rain today. Yeah, you do. Slight chance of it. It's going to kick in later on. Good chance you're going to see some rain today. Slight chance turns into rain later on tonight. Temperatures 46 with the high, 35 for the overnight low. It'll continue until tomorrow, and then you'll start to slowly work your way out of it. But it'll be mostly cloudy from, say, Wednesday night all the way through Friday, Saturday. So pretty good. Temperatures all the way through the week are going to be in the 40s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
I wish Michael would speak up a little bit instead of the low, because he doesn't realize that with cell phones and everything, sometimes it's hard to pick up. I'm going to have to get a cattle prod, and I'm going to have to make sure that we kind of, okay, louder. Thank you, Michael. And that's the weather brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Absolutely the best waiting to serve you, Red's Trading Post. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I couldn't resist. You were one cow behind. The line to that is, and that's no bull.
This has got to be Shoresman, right?
Yeah, so what's his name?
Hey, Gary, I am so glad you called. You, of course, are a student of history, and we've talked about where we are as compared to other aspects of history, like the Bolshevik Revolution, etc. Honestly, what's your appraisal of this administration? Why are they doing the things they're doing?
Well, we're so infiltrated with Marx and Engels and we really are with the communists, that they're just laying back, waiting. They're all part of the deal, but they're just waiting for the Democrats to go far enough, and they're riding in on their tailcoats, and when they're pretty well solid, then they'll take over and get rid of the Democrats.
You know,
exactly what happened in Russia.
Let me ask you real quick.
Obama was very clear when he was standing on that stage and said, we're going to fundamentally change America. And then Michelle got up and said, this is the first time she's proud. Well, that's been a long time ago, and we've forgotten it, and he's doing it.
Absolutely. Real quick, on the Bergdahl situation. We have heard the innuendos and the charges for a long period of time. I said basically well over 3 years about about his being a deserter and also the possibility of being a traitor. The White House is absolutely scared. According to some reports I've had this morning, the word scared came up. They are scared about this report coming out, and they want it to go away. As many bad things have happened to this administration, they always seem to come sliding into home plate safe. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, 52% of this country voted him in, and they still are, love the welfare state. Me, give me more. And the only thing I can say about Bergdahl is what's etched in my mind was 5 or 6 of his buddies who all were in the camp the night that he left and said he left on his own. So I don't know what's going on, but it's... I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
Who knows?
Gary, call me sometime, come back over and do another segment on our program. I really enjoy your comments. Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah, and you watch that cow.
God bless. Thank you. All right. Caller number 2, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir. Hey, by the way, thank you for John Wayne.
Oh, I thought you'd like that.
I do.
I thought he'd look good in your office. I've never seen your office before, but you needed somebody to guard you against some of these Democrats.
Now, wait a minute, Dwayne. First of all, your comment, I've never seen your office before. Let me just say this, and I mean this out of complete respect to you. You don't want to see my office.
Well, I hope you like it.
I do. Thank you very much.
I had it. I brought it back. My son had it in his den down in this sport room there, and he's getting ready to move. And I told him, I know a guy that probably really liked that.
Well, I've got a lot of John Wayne memorabilia, but I didn't have anything like this. But I got to tell you that, and I think I mentioned this to you. I did on the air the other day. That when you brought in the John Wayne caricature cutout, life size, and where you had placed it was just in front of the American flag that we use at Lunch Bunch, and I wrote about that in my latest blog because it really set the tone for the rest of the day. So thank you. Real quick, I'm almost out of time. What can I do for you?
I didn't hear. I've been sick, and I didn't even hear you comment on it on the air before.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you told me. Anyhow, Ben Carson. It kind of upsets me because my son is a supporter of Ben Carson, and he keeps me in tune with what's going on there. And he is doing very well in the polls. He has raised funds. They had a goal, and they raised it in no time at all. And yet on TV or any news, they'll list all these people, and then they'll, oh, yeah, Ben Carson. If somebody happens to mention him, oh, yeah, that's right. There's him too,
Yeah.
Just afterthought. Well, he is the only man up there that's not a politician.
I disagree with you as being a good friend. I'm going to disagree with you because I'm never going to just whitewash things to get along. I honestly have changed my whole attitude on the Republican Party, and I am standing right behind, and I will support right now, unless something drastically changes, Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin. That man has had his feet in the fire. That man, as a governor, has run a state from being totally in the red, broke, to in the black, and that man stood a recall against the loony liberals, won, and he has been a great leader, and now he's got some concentrated programs that are going to lead us out of this mess, and he's already started to explain how. I like this guy.
Well, he was my second choice. And wouldn't they be good vice president and president?
No argument there. I agree with you. Dwayne, I got to get a commercial in. God bless you, and thanks again for John Wayne. Old John and I will get along fine.
All right. I'm glad.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Hey, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Let's talk a little bit about tires this morning for your vehicles. Now, I still feel in my heart of hearts that something is going to happen here in the next maybe 10, 15, 20 days. Something that's not going to be good weather-wise, and all of a sudden you're going to be caught flat-footed and say, oh, my, I wish I'd have got those traction tires. They've got them all all for you right there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with all the snow chains and the very, very best in brake service. You know, people don't just think your brakes are always going to be there when you push on the pedal. Oh, what a surprise. Well, you get in there and make sure that everything is safe for your driving. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, a little levity, thanks to Gina. Anyway, Gina, what are you doing over there this morning? I haven't had a chance to hardly say hello to you or anything. Next hour and for the remainder of the day, it's going to be fairly busy, but anything cooking that I should be aware of?
Not really. I mean, I'm just doing what I do behind the scenes, and then, it is what it is.
Well, I'm taking it easy after my program and enjoying life. Yesterday was another beautiful day. A little bit breezy, a little cool, but when you were out of the wind and in the sunshine, oh wow, what a January!
I know. Honestly, I'm still waiting for the winter weather. I'm kind of concerned that we're not going to get that winter weather that we need to build up that snowpack for the irrigation season.
I agree with you, but the people on the East Coast, I don't know if you heard about it or not. They in New York City, they did not get the threat that they had forecast. As a matter of fact, De Blasio had closed down the whole city. First time it's happened in a long time, and they thought they were going to get 3 feet of snow, and they ended up with 5 inches.
Well, it's good that the city was prepared, and that they took the necessary precautions. Thankfully, they did not get that big storm, but they can send some of our storms our way because we really do need them.
Well, but there were other parts. In fairness, Massachusetts, Boston got hit pretty hard up the coast into Maine and everything. But I noticed that there were a lot of people in New York that basically had to seek shelter last night because they couldn't get home. Newscasts for all the networks. All the networks had to get hotel rooms last night because they had no transportation out of the city and all the roads were closed, and basically it didn't happen, so there they were.
Well, I guess, like I said, kudos to them for being prepared, and if you're a news person, just stay at the studio.
Yeah, get a sleeping bag.
Exactly.
And a Coleman lantern.
Amen.
And make sure somebody tells you where the toilet paper is. See you in 5.
You got it.
All right. Oh, welcome back. Hour number 2 on this Tuesday, January 27th. Zeb at the Ranch and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and we're very proud of Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and we praise them. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Always at your disposal. How true. Number to call, 734-6969 to get rid of your garbage. These folks are the best. Locally owned and operated. I stress locally owned and operated, and serving all the Magic Valley. Absolutely. You give them a call today. Get on the route service. You can set your watch by it. These folks are good and taking care of all your garbage. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, 734-6969. Also, real quick, before we get our guest on the program, I want to say thank you. Thank you to Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. So supportive of all the different community events. They've been so supportive of our lunch bunch over the many years, and thank you very much. Joel Heward, his wife, family, and the staff, just wonderful, wonderful people. And they always uphold the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. And during a difficult time as the passing of a loved one, they want your expectations of service to be met and exceeded. They do a wonderful job. Joel Heward, the staff at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we have with us from Americans for Prosperity, the lovely... Now, she's not a newlywed anymore. She's been, well, I don't know, how long have you been married now? Over a year, right, Christine?
Yeah, it's almost 2 years now.
Holy cow.
Not a newlywed anymore.
Christine Harbin Hansen, and I got to be honest with you, you shared with us on the program quite some time ago that you were not the world's best cook, but you were learning. How did the holidays go this year, my dear?
Oh, it was great. We went home to Wisconsin, saw lots of friends and family, but no, I certainly wasn't able to make Thanksgiving turkey, but that's okay. I spent all my time watching what Congress is up to.
Oh my goodness!
Good fight here in Washington.
How do you keep track of all this buffoonery? Now, I just am amazed at Congress. I'm amazed at their TV time. I'm amazed at the Republicans and the Democrats, and it just seems like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, nor do they care. What is the sensibility? What is the sensibility right now where Americans have tried to put a little bit more cash in their pockets, and they've tried to take the kids to Dairy Queen once in a while. They've tried to do a little bit more shopping on the gas savings. Now the Congress wants to possibly impose, thanks to Obama, a huge gas tax. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think you framed the issue very well, Zeb. Americans are, finally feel like they're catching a break. After years of struggling in the Obama economy, they're having difficulty, facing their wages are going down. They finally feel like they catch a break in the form of low gas prices, but it's not too long before federal lawmakers here in Washington are proposing to raise the gas tax. We have a transportation package coming up later this summer, and instead of prioritizing spending, instead of actually ensuring that transportation dollars are spent as intended, they're just looking to hike the tax.
Let me ask you this, Christine. Have you heard rumblings or rumors of any amount or figure that they're proposing? I mean, how much of a gouge are they going to throw at us?
Well, some estimates it's still very early, so estimates vary. But I've heard proposals some serious proposals as high as $1.
Oh my!
A whole $1. I mean, we know the pain of having $4 gasoline. Well, if and when gas prices return to what they were a year ago, we're going to be facing even higher gas prices, and that's going to place even more strain on household budgets.
Well, Christine, what you said is just absolutely well stated, because in USA Today last week, they were quoting a guy by the name of John Hofmeister, and he said, baby, it's not going to go any lower. As a matter of fact, we're going to start seeing higher prices prevail. And this morning, that's what happened. Prices are starting to go the other way, and Hofmeister has predicted that we're going to see possibly $5 before the end of the year, which, with this silly, stupid congressional tax, could put it at $6.
One thing that worries me, looking across the states as well, is that a lot of our state chapters are currently battling state proposals to raise the gas tax as well. This is really concerning, because if federal lawmakers and state lawmakers have their way in many states like South Carolina or in Michigan, then those energy consumers are going to be really gouged. Those families are going to face very high gas taxes, and it's going to place a big burden in the near future.
You know what the problem is, Christine, and you deal with this every day, but I'm serious when I say this, that every congressman, every senator ought to have a hammer held to his head and a threat made to them personally that, Okay, you want a gas tax? You want to gouge us some more? Then you make sure that that money is locked up tighter than a drum and can only be used for the infrastructure. If you start passing it out to liberal loony programs, we're going to come back and haunt you like a ghost.
Well, I think that's a really good point to bring up in this debate when we're talking about transportation spending and whether to raise the gas tax. There's a common misperception that these gas tax dollars are earmarked to roads and bridges. It would be great if that were true. Then it would be more of a user fee. So the people who were using the roads and bridges are the ones who are picking up most of the costs. But unfortunately, when we actually look at where these dollars go, a lot of these, gas tax revenues go to projects that are not roads and bridges. They go to things like bike paths and public transit, which is fine. I mean, if the taxpayers and their elected officials decide to spend that money, they should do so. But we should give up the guise that these gas tax dollars are earmarked for transportation, because it's just not true. This is not the user fee that it's advertised.
I will say this, and I don't care if I offend anyone. For Pete's sakes, I'm out looking out for other people like myself. But this is not the time for a gas tax. This is not the time for a major hike. Right now, our economy still has its boot heels on the edge of a cliff, and all we need is a good stiff breeze and we could get knocked off into the canyon. We need to let this economy settle for at least 2 years. We need to see some growth. We need to see some progress. We need to see people get back into earning money, saving money, and spending money. You are not going to solve the problems and the woes of our economy by nailing them with another dollar gas tax.
Right, and additionally, this gas tax hike isn't in isolation. Just this past week, President Obama delivered his State of the Union address before Congress, and what we heard was a number of different tax proposals that are, would really, nickel and dime American families just to fuel higher spending on his pet projects. You're right, Zeb. What we should do, what lawmakers should do, is let American energy consumers, let American families enjoy this reprieve at the gas pump that they're currently enjoying, because who knows how long it's going to last. And when gas prices do go up, whenever that may be, if gas taxes are higher, it's going to have a huge impact.
Here's something else, and I may be off track a little bit, but you'll understand I'm intertwining this so we can get to the same subject. I don't trust Obama. I don't trust this administration. I don't like any of his administration because of their ideology. I think that when gas got down below $2, they literally were poking pins and voodoo dolls, hoping and praying that they could turn this thing around because they're all in bed with the environmentalists. That leads me up to Keystone Pipeline. This thing has been beleaguered. This thing has been delayed. This thing has absolutely had all the study it needs to be approved, and this president will not do it.
Yeah, from our perspective at AFP, approving the permit for the Keystone Pipeline should be a no-brainer. It's a way to provide affordable and reliable energy to American families and businesses, and it would create jobs. But unfortunately, for politically charged reasons, the Obama administration and its allies in Congress have really put a chokehold on this permit approval process. So thankfully, the Senate is currently considering legislation that would approve the permit, and Americans for Prosperity is calling on senators to vote yes on this. I believe the vote may come as soon as tomorrow. But we see elsewhere in some of Obama's recent activities that would really lock up what would be, resources, energy resources that we have here, at home, and keep them from development. Just on Sunday, for example, he said that he was going to, by executive order, closed off a lot of resources in Alaska from energy development. This is very alarming, Zeb. All these policies working together are going to drive up energy costs and be really harmful for American energy consumers.
You know, my weatherman that I have hired is originally from Alaska. And he told me a long time ago, beware of what Obama's going to do. Beware of how he's going to hurt the people of Alaska that will in turn also hurt the populace of the United States. And this is exactly what's happening. I have talked to people up there that are really cringing in fear that if he goes through with this basically shutting up Alaska, we're going to see people out of work. We're going to see the whole state go into another great big huge recession. We're going to see a trickle-down effect. What is the matter with this man that he can't understand the majority of Americans and what they need and what they want?
This executive order shutting down the energy industry in Alaska is certainly going to threaten the state of economy in Alaska. It's the number one energy is the number one industry in Alaska, and when those resources are locked up and held away from development, it means that the state budget that relies on those revenues is not going to is going to really hurt for revenue. So there is a number of really concerning things, and certainly this is going to put Alaskans certainly in harm's way.
What about natural gas? That's the third topic I wanted to ask you about. We have an abundance. I mean, this country, Christine, I don't have to tell you this. You know it. We have an abundance of untapped resources. Untapped. That literally we could throw energy programs out the window as far as having to worry about wind and solar, which is absolutely repulsive to me. We have so much energy right under the surface of our land, and we can do it in a respectful manner so that we're very adherent to the rules and regulations about not hurting our environment. But this administration is going to lead us back to where we live in a cave and burn buffalo dung.
Yeah, our country is certainly fortunate to have all these resources in the form of natural gas just below our surface, and with advances in technology in the private sector, we can certainly tap into these with little to no harm to the environment. But just like we see elsewhere in the current energy policy, this has been really held up by the administration playing politics. And so what we're seeing right now is, we've had this long-standing ban in exporting our LNG, our liquefied natural gas, to other countries. Thankfully, Congress is doing something about it. Congress is on the House side. The House of Representatives is considering a legislation that would approve exporting LNG to WTO countries. So this is a strong step in the right direction, and here too, Americans for Prosperity is encouraging Congress to vote yes on it.
Okay, now
it's one small step, but it's a good one.
Let me ask you this. Again, it's your job. It's your job to understand what Congress is doing. It's your job to understand the best and the worst of what they're doing. Do you have any faith in this Congress now that it's controlled by the Republicans in the Senate and the House, or is it going to be, in your opinion, the same old, same old?
Well, I'm optimistic, and so I'm certainly will hope that these politicians, I'll take them at their word, that they want to help promote Americans' access to affordable and reliable energy, that they want to cut spending and they want to promote cut taxes. But look, again, I emphasize these are politicians, and so it's really hard for them to put their words into practice, and that's why it's so important to keep watch on what they're doing. That's why organizations like mine are so important. we make it easy for people to, keep track on what their elected officials are doing and holding them accountable, letting them know when they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. It's important that, in between election times, that, making sure that people are doing what they said they would do.
Let me ask you this. I'm more than willing to jump in and help any way I can. I do not mind telling politicians, hey, remember, you work for me, I don't work for you. Do my bidding. But what can America do? I know a lot of my listeners are frustrated, and they'll send me emails, they'll make calls to me, and they'll say, man, I am so sick and tired. I pay these guys to work for me, and they do just the opposite of what we the people want. What can we do?
It's really frustrating sometimes, certainly. One thing that you can do is, regular folks, who don't live in Washington like me, what people can do is send a note to their members of Congress. They may not feel like they're making a difference, but you know what? People read them. And if you encourage your friends and coworkers to send notes as well, or call up your member of Congress, stop by their office and tell them, how you feel on the issues, they're going to start to notice. So it only takes, it may take some repeated messages, but that's the only way to get elected officials to hold them accountable and let them know that they should stand up for people like you.
Let me go back and revert back to the gas tax just for a minute, because this is a question that needs to be asked. You said that they're considering it. Well, do you have any possible or tentative dates and times as to when this might hit the floor and they're going to say, we want this, $1 increase or whatever? I mean, I would love to get my constituency and my audience behind a petition drive or whatever to send to Mike Simpson, to send to Mike Crapo and Jim Risch and others, just to let them know that we're doggone mad about this.
I think we're going to hear more specific proposals about the gas tax in March. I think that's when we're going to start seeing some bill text hit the floor. That's currently it's a little early in the process. People are starting to float the idea of a gas tax. But now's the critical time because, it's really important to get members of Congress on the record on whether they oppose or support a gas tax. It's really important to stop this momentum now early before it really gains traction on Capitol Hill. And that's why Americans for Prosperity is really focused on this. And another thing I would add is there is wide consensus off of Capitol Hill that a gas tax hike is not a good policy for millions of Americans,
right.
As they continue in this down economy.
You're right, Christine. Now you're talking to me from what, Washington D.C. right now?
It's true. I'm in the District of Columbia.
Okay, now my question is, was the purported snowmageddon, was it as bad as people thought it would be? I mean, what's the status on the weather back where you are?
There was a lot of hysteria, and honestly, the Northeast, in like the New York and Boston areas, were supposed to get it worse than us. I'm looking outside my window right now, and although we have some snow, it's only about an inch or two. So it's certainly not the snowmageddon that we thought we were going to get.
Okay, and you're originally from my home state of Wisconsin, isn't that correct?
It's true. If I remember correctly, Zeb, aren't you from Richland Center?
No, Fort Atkinson.
Fort Atkinson. I apologize. Yeah, I'm from that part of the country as well. I'm close to the Minnesota border.
All right. Don't you notice, though, and real quick on this, that when people have a fear of snowfall back on the East Coast, for some reason they just want to rail and chew their fingernails and tear their hair out. And we grew up with this. It's no big deal.
It's true. I take the opportunity with my fellow Midwesterners, people like you and me, to act really smug about the snow, but it's okay.
All right. Christine Herben Hansen, that was an excellent conversation. You shed a lot of light on it this morning about Congress and the taxes, and I really appreciate having you on the air. God's blessings to you, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me on, Zeb. Always great to be with you.
All right, thank you. With the Americans for Prosperity, Christine Herben Hansen, and I got to do something. I don't know what it is, but I absolutely do not want a gas tax. I do not want to drive to the pump and see my credit card max out on one filling. I do not want to see gas go back to $3, $4, $5 a gallon, and then the feds are going to put a gas tax on it, and then our state might also increase the gas tax for the infrastructure. We are looking at a very precarious situation right now. Oh, yeah. We looked at some cheaper prices for a while, but look out, baby. There's a train coming around the bend. Caller, let me do these commercials real quick. Please stand by. I'll be right with you before I have to take my next call. Don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design. They bring the weather to us every morning right after the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm very honored to have them on my program. Look for the Blue Door. They've got lots and lots of newly refurbished furniture, and they've got everything for your home decor. Check out all the Valentine's home decor decorations. They've got everything for you at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Very professional, and they serve you at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Again, look for the Blue Door. Caller, quickly. Good morning. You're on the air.
Zeb, I want you to clarify something for me. You know, I am for cheap energy, but I think I am against the Keystone Pipeline now due to the fact that I don't like eminent domain, especially by a foreign country. You know, if a man wants it to come through his property, great. But if he doesn't, I think private property and private property rights are so important to Americans. And the power lines going south of Burley is kind of another example, but at least that power is going to stay in America. But for a foreign country to use eminent domain and come through our country and not even necessarily have to give us the fuel, that just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, you know,
I think they could still truck it or use railroad. You know, I want energy, but I like private property too.
I respect your attitude on this, and I'm not trying to be evasive with you because you're a very good listener, but you can understand that I've got another guest scheduled in about 1 minute, and I've got a commercial break. But would you do me the favor of calling me back like in a first hour sometime on this program? Because I'd love to discuss that. I agree with some of the points you brought up, but overall, because of the thousands and thousands of other pipelines that are in that area co-joining with other pipelines, I'm going to tell you that I have to be in favor of this, because the more we can wean ourselves away from the camel jockeys, the more I like it.
Well, I'll talk to you at another time then, Zeb, when you have more time.
I appreciate it, sir. God bless you. Thank you so much. Caller number 2, quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, you want to keep an eye on you-know-who up in Washington. I'm not going to name his name, but anyway, if he has his way, it ain't going to go to $5 a gallon. It's going to go to $10 a gallon.
I'm not going to argue that point, and we're talking about Obama. Thank you very much, caller. I got to run. Thank you. Appreciate it. Don't forget, let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. The number to call, 436-4771. This is where the fun is sold. Oh, my goodness. You like ATVing? Well, they've got all the ATVs over there. Oh, by the way, speaking of, load yours up. Get them over there. Get them serviced so you're ready for this spring. Absolutely. And they've got the Skidoo snowmobiles, all kinds of angel dandruff up on the hills. You better enjoy the winter. And all the accessories. My goodness, they got a great accessory department. And a service department second to none. You better stop over. Let's ride between Rupert and Burley, 270 Highway 24. Yup, where the fun is sold. Wonderful, wonderful people over there. Let me just kind of give a recap as to where I've got to be. I'm running a little bit time-wise, I'm running a little late. I want to quickly remind you also about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. And I've said this many, many times on this program. You want to work with professionals that can take the time, they're accessible, and devoted to serving you. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, they really serve you, your business, and your family. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call for an appointment. Do this, 436-4424. Let's go to the phone lines right now. And a man that we've had on our program in the past, very, very sharp individual, and I'm looking forward to hearing his comments, and that's Jared Meyer. Jared, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today, Zeb?
I'm like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm running in circles here, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm running late, so I apologize for holding you up for a few moments.
Oh, no problem.
Listen, Jared, simply put, and I want you to expand on it because you're the expert, but I think our education system is, I'll use the word, very dictatorial. I don't like the way our education system is set up, whether it's here, whether it's Alabama, whether it's New Hampshire, it doesn't make any difference. I just think our kids should be exposed to the best schools available and get away from as much government intrusion as possible. You take it from there and tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think you're leading it perfectly in the right direction, and you couldn't pick a better time to bring this up, because this week is actually School Choice Week, which serves to bring awareness to the idea that school choice works, and that when parents and children are given control over where to get their education and what they're going to learn, we see successes across the board.
When we say this, there are those automatically, Jared, that are going to say, yeah, but in today's society, parents don't give a darn. They just kind of sit back and they're not parents like they used to be. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think that's at least a valid concern because they're caring about the children, whereas we see a lot of other concerns over school choice are just looking to protect teachers' unions or entrenched interests. But I would respond to their concern over parents by bringing up a statistic from New York City last year. New York City has a wide network of charter schools, but they don't have enough for the parents who want to get their kids into the programs that teach more innovative ways to learn and are free to experiment. So last year, there were 70,000 applications submitted for just 20,000 seats. That means these parents were going out of their way to take the 30% chance that they could provide a better education for their children. I think parents, and the data show this, and just pure experience shows that parents care more about their children than anyone else, especially government bureaucrats.
So in this situation and in this circumstance, basically it was the luck of the draw, like going to Vegas and putting your money on Black 27 as to whether or not their kids got accepted into a better education system.
Yeah, except putting your money on black would be a better odds of getting your than getting your kid into one of these innovative programs. So I see states in the coming years, what they need to do is work to expand school choice. And that includes Idaho, which currently doesn't have a voucher system. Mm-hmm. And vouchers are what I think are the best form of school choice, because instead of the students having to be forced to go to a school based on their zip code, the money that people are paying in to fund students follows the students themselves. So if they want to go to a better school or a school that teaches an alternative way of learning that fits them better, they're free to do so and take their funding with them.
Let me ask you, Jared, and expand on this a little bit, because I'm going to say right up front I've got a lot of unknowledge about this. I'm very naive about this because I haven't studied it as much as I have other topics on my program. How hard is it, and I don't know if this is the right verbiage to use, but how hard is it to set up these programs?
Well, it takes a lot of work because education is something that's very different for each individual, for each community. So it takes a lot of work, a lot of experimentation, maybe some trying and failure, but in that we're going to see success, and we have seen success as charter schools have found what works better for their students. So students who are able to get into more innovative environments where there's not set rules pushed by teachers' unions, they've seen higher academic successes, which lead to success in the rest of their lives as well.
What about, again, my naivete on this, what about the teachers themselves? Would we see some teachers become unemployed, or would they lose their jobs, or would this be a benefit for the teachers?
Well, I think we would see some unqualified teachers lose their jobs as schools have to start competing based on quality rather than getting a built-in set of students based on zip code. But overall, I think we would see a boom to the teaching industry. As teachers become valued for what they are, which is one of the most important people in children's lives, the competition and, you would have to pay good quality teachers much more to retain them as students are free to move from school to school. So I think teachers that should be in a classroom and are making a positive difference in students' lives, they're going to see a pay bump and an increase in the respect they deserve for what they're doing.
I want to revert back to a question I asked just a moment ago about the parents. And some of the people that you interview today, not you, but I mean my kind of profession that we interview, you find out that they have a hard time trying to remember who the first president of the United States was. I'm not saying that in all instances, but can parents make the right decision on the best schools?
Well, one backdrop, safeguard that states do have is they have a list of approved schools, ones that do allow vouchers or school choice. So whether that's private schools, charter schools, or other existing public schools, parents are free to choose from those. And the way I look at it, it can't get any worse than the way it is right now. The worst thing that would happen if we had more school choice is kids would stay in the bad schools they're in, ignoring that those schools would probably improve with increased competition. But there's really no way it can get worse than it is now, and those who are opponents of school choice are stuck with the impossible task of defending the status quo.
Now, Jared, when you did the study on this, and the top headline of your story was to expand opportunity, expand school choice, you must have done some research into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just how ugly are some circumstances in education in the United States today?
Well, the United States is falling, especially in terms of science and math, and we're now behind a lot of our, first world competitors, whereas the U.S. education system used to be the envy of the world. But if we look at the reason for this decline, oftentimes people will say, well, we just need to spend more money on schools. But that just simply is not true. If we look at inflation-adjusted dollars, funding per student has increased almost 250% in the last 50 years. So we're throwing more money at the problem, yet our educational attainment is falling. So now it stands at about $13,000 per student is the average in the U.S. for how much we pay to educate them in the public system. Now, I want you to imagine if we gave each parent $13,000 to use for educational expenses for their children, and that would clearly lead to better outcomes than what we're seeing right now.
How? How is this structured? Again, my naivete on this subject. How do you structure this so that the parents pick and choose and pay? How is it going to be set up so that the transactions are handled so that they contact the schools and the money is forwarded? I mean, how do you set this all up?
Well, the vouchers aren't simply, a check given to parents that they can use for whatever they want. They have stipulations on it, how they can use this money. Maybe it's for extra tutoring if a student, is lacking in math and that's where they need it. Or they could use it for saving for college if that's in a student's future. So while the spending has to be educational related, there's a lot of flexibility to fit the unique needs of each student.
Let me ask you something, and I know I'm probably off base on this question, Jared, so bear with me. But I have said on this program for a long, long time that colleges and the expectation that little Johnny and Susie, every Johnny and Susie, should go to college, I think is wrong. I think it's absolutely negative and wrong because we're overlooking some of our trade schools and trade opportunities where more people are needed as plumbers, electricians, whatever. And I think our education system is pushing too many kids to college.
Yes, I would agree with you 100%. And the way we've structured our federal student loans, and just, you're right, the arguments we're using, the rhetoric we're pushing for students is that everyone needs to go to a 4-year liberal arts college. That's simply not true. That doesn't work for everyone. And if you look in terms of earnings and future potential, there's plenty of other options that can have a great return on investment and allow people to get into the workforce sooner and get skills such as the trade schools that we're lacking right now. So I would agree with you 100% on that.
I think maybe I'm stepping out of bounds here, and we'll back it up to the 10-yard line, but I am so bitter, and maybe I shouldn't be, but you're the expert on this. I am so bitter against Obama and what he said during the State of the Union speech as far as providing free junior college education to students. Nothing is free, Jared. It has to come out of somebody's pocket, and I personally had to work 2 jobs while I was going to college to pay for my college education. I don't know why that same concept of working hard and achieving can't be pushed into this generation. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, community college is the same as any sort of higher education investment in that it's an investment. And it's already very affordable for students. And there's loans available for them. They can... community college is one of the few areas where you can actually work and put yourself through school. Whereas if we're looking at 4-year programs, the cost has shot up so much because of government-provided funds that just pretty much give colleges an okay to increase their tuition as much as they want, that now for 4-year schools, it's really not possible to work your way through anymore. But we see that community colleges, it has been working. The prices are low, and it's a good option for some students who are trying to figure out what they want to do or maybe want to move into a career that only requires a 2-year degree. But I think free community college, or free, I should put that in quotes as you pointed out, is not the right step for us to take.
What would it take, and kind of a step-graded process, 1, 2, 3, all the way to whatever the final number is in having a success, what is it going to take to get a school and education system that would put America back up on top? How are we going to structure this?
Well, first we need to allow more innovation to take place in the classroom. I mean, technology is changing, the skills that students need to learn are changing, and the workforce they're going to be entering is changing as well. So if we don't have innovation in the classroom, which I think is epitomized by charter schools and some private schools, that vouchers would open the opportunity for all students to attend, if that's not done, we're going to continue falling behind in this ever-changing economy. So that's the first step. Then after that we have to change the way we structure higher education in this country. Not only, stopping telling everyone that they have to go to a 4-year degree program, but we need to stop putting in place policies that make it unaffordable for most people to attend. And then after that, we need to have continuing education. I mean, now with you're not going to just get a job right out of college and stick with that till retirement, or at least that's going to be rare. Most people in the workforce are going to have to continue learning, continuing to develop new skills, and taking their professional development really on their own shoulders. So if we can have those 3 steps throughout someone's whole educational and career life, I think we could get American education back on track.
You know, Jared, you said something a minute ago, and I've used those words many, many times on my program. I am sick and tired, regardless of whether it's education or what the problem is in this country. It always seems like it's going to be the catch-all and the cure-all if we just throw money at it. And it doesn't cure the problem, does it?
No, not at all. The things that you constantly see, such as spending more money on students or, lowering class sizes or working to do any of these things, that's not what makes the difference. What makes the difference is quality teachers who invest in their students' futures. And that's what educational choice and what School Choice Week is all about, is getting more of these teachers in the classroom and making it more accessible for students to be able to find them and have their futures molded by these teachers.
Do you see more or less, or are we stuck in a rut as far as quality teachers, good young people going into the teaching profession? What's happening there?
Well, right now, if we're looking at the people who go into teaching, there's a pretty high percentage from the bottom quarter of their college class, and I think that would be changed if we would allow more, competitive compensation. Rather than, doing pay based on seniority, we should pay teachers based on their skills. And while this is hard to measure and we can't simply rely on standardized tests, or anything along those lines. I think looking back on everyone's educational experience, it's pretty clear which teachers you had that were, effective and made a difference in your life. They might have been hard on you, but you can tell if someone was a good teacher or not.
No, absolutely.
The one problem, though, would be relying too much on standardized testing, where teachers are pushed even more to just teach to the test rather than preparing students to think for themselves.
I always learn something when you're on my program, Jared. I really, really appreciate it. A fellow at the Economics 21 at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research, Jared Meyer, thank you. Thank you very much for being on my program, and I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime.
All right, sir. Have a great day. Thank you very, very much. Man, I tell you, he had some direct answers. He studied the circumstances. And that man, Jared Meyer, absolutely knows what needs to be done to create a better education environment in this country. Appreciate that. Oh, my goodness, we got to have the weather forecast on here. Deanne's in the office looking for something. Maybe it's the weather. I'll provide that for her. It's brought to you by our good friends at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. I think the world and all of these people. They're so friendly. They're so helpful. They're located at 382 North Overland in Burley. The number to call is 678-6996. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today. Absolutely. I don't care if you're having trouble with an ear infection or a sprained ankle or a strain or a fracture, injuries due to accidents, whatever, they can help you. You better believe it, and they can help you now. Don't forget Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 678-6996. Right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. Get some rain today. There's a slight chance of it. It's going to kick in later on. Good chance you're going to see some rain today. Slight chance turns into rain later on tonight. Temperatures 46 with the high, 35 for the overnight low. It'll continue until tomorrow, and then you'll start to slowly work your way out of it. But it'll be mostly cloudy from, say, Wednesday night all the way through Friday, Saturday. So pretty good. Temperatures all the way through the week are going to be in the 40s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go, Michael. Thank you very much. And our thanks go again to some wonderful folks serving you at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. The number to call, 678-6996. They will see you today. Gina, I've got a little story here. Have you got time to visit with me on this or not?
I do.
Okay, yeah, I got to do another commercial, but I want to throw this at you. I have said many, many times on this program, especially in the last 6 months, that our police forces are in a real rock and a hard spot situation. What de Blasio did to the police force back in New York was absolutely was abhorrible, and throwing them under the bus, basically. And our policemen they've got to be trained so they can react to a situation in a split second. I don't know if you had a chance to see what happened in Oklahoma and hear about this story about a black guy that was threatening members of a church party at a wedding, and he had a gun. And the minister ran to get a phone and called 911. So the police came immediately, and when the cop cars pulled up in front of the church, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of this story, the man started running away, okay? Now, the officers saw that he was carrying a gun, and the police cameras that were mounted on the different policemen all recorded the same circumstance. The officers saw him running down the road with a gun, and they said, "Stop, police, stop." And the man turned around like he was going to fire, and the police shot him, and they killed him. But now, the NAACP is coming out, and they're highly criticizing the police officers. They're going after the police captain and the police force, and they're saying that the officers acted way above excessive force. They should have stopped him and questioned him.
They were trying to. He was running. He turned around. He had a gun.
How did the police win? How do the police win?
Apparently, nobody can win against the NAACP.
But
nobody can win.
How do you win against a society that is going to put officials always in the wrong?
I have no idea. I don't have an answer for that. You know, our policemen and women are kind of put between a rock and a hard spot. I mean, they're trained to protect us. Their job is to protect and to serve. They're called. A guy is at a church, and they react to that.
Well, okay, you just touched on it. The whole premise of the story was the man was making threatening moves and remarks against a wedding party. The pastor of this wedding called the police 911. Somebody's going to get shot. We have a man here with a gun. The police show up. The man runs away carrying the gun. The police say stop. He turns with the weapon, and he is taken down. I mean, how much do the police have to give? How much does society have to give before the bad guys are taken out?
I guess it would take maybe a member of the NAACP to get shot and killed, and I hate to say this, and so this is just, you know, a scenario. I think that, honestly, for any sort of change to be made, a member of the accusatory party, a.k.a. the NAACP, somebody needs to be put into this type of situation so they understand exactly what it is that our law enforcement men and women go through to protect us.
I'm going to just throw this out there because I think it's meriting the question, and then I'll take the call. Had it been a white person, a Caucasian?
Oh, this would not even be news.
There you go.
Not even be news.
There you go. Do I have a call? All right, caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I just want to ask, what in tarnation were those cops supposed to do? I mean, the guy had a gun. He made like he was going to shoot him. What were they supposed to do? Wait until he actually started firing?
I can't answer that question because the accusatory remarks by the NAACP and many others in other circumstances, here's a policeman, and they are basically targets in society. When there's a crime committed and they corner the bad guys, they are the targets. I don't know, a split-second decision wrong could take their life, and I just don't know how you provide training for that split-second decision, and then for the NAACP to say, well, you should have captured him and just absolutely asked him questions. How, in circumstances, do you do that?
Exactly. I mean, there's no way to train for a situation like that. I mean, you gotta make a decision on the fly. If the guy's got a gun and he's pointing it at you,
and he had already threatened others to possibly shoot them.
Exactly. So odds were he was going to start shooting. And if they'd have waited a second longer, there probably would have been a dead cop.
Yeah. I mean, there's
That's
that.
Probably what the NAACP wants.
I don't know, and I wouldn't say that because there's no verification for it, but I appreciate your call as always. Thank you very much. I just don't know how a policeman can react to these different circumstances in the literal blink of an eye. I know that there have been bad cops. I know that there have been bad circumstances. But my goodness, to say, well, we should have just stopped him and asked him questions. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
If that little white guy dropped that gun before he turned around.
Well, we can't say, Fred, what they would have done, but I'm just saying the NAACP, I think, is putting highly unjust pressure on police forces to accuse them of wrongdoing when the perpetrator was the one that created the problem.
Absolutely. If he dropped that gun before he turned around, he wouldn't have got shot.
That's right. I totally agree with you. Totally agree. Fred, good to hear from you, my friend. Take care. God bless. Thank you.
You take care. You've been sick.
Okay, well, we're getting better. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Hey, by the way, real quick, I'm going to tell you about Christine Pickup and Mount Harrison Audiology. Did you hear that? Oh, you didn't? Well, do you know that about 20% of adults in the United States, that's 48 million people, they're suffering from some degree of hearing loss? And at age 65, which I'm above that, 1 out of 3 people has a hearing loss. Well, you don't have to suffer through and not hear what's going on around you. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, and call the number and make an appointment. 312-0957. 312-0957. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology. Oh my. Anyway, just crazy, wacky stories in the news. That's one of them. I did not have time this morning to get into a global warming story. Now, it is so important that we talk about this because of the wackos. That's what they are. I don't care if anybody's offended out there by this. They're wackos with global warming. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to take the story that I didn't have time for this morning, and I'm going to feature it in the first hour, because it just takes common sense to understand that the weird wacko left that wants to perpetrate global warming and wants to force upon us a global cooling would be the denigration of mankind and a killer. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, first hour, and I welcome your phone calls on that. But I am sick and tired of these perverted people that know nothing about what would happen with a global cooling, trying to force us into a colder atmosphere. And we'll talk about that in the first hour tomorrow. So please give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Coming up next hour, we have Dr. History. Now, I want to explain something to you. It is a repeat performance. Dr. History is in Boise, still tending to his mom that's in the hospital up there. So we're going to run a repeat performance of Dr. History. And so therefore don't call because we can't get you on the air. It's a taped show for the next 30 minutes after the news. And then at 10:30 this morning, do not miss former CIA operative live and direct. You can call in. We welcome your calls. Brian Fairchild. Going to be great. We'll see you then. I'll be back in 6. Welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch. Good morning. Good morning. Brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers, which include Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, locally owned and operated. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. Real quick, and then we're going to start with Dr. History. I want to remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, Tuesday, I love this. Sausage and pepper pasta with garlic toast and super salad for just $8.95. It's fantabulous. And don't forget, sausage and pepper pasta today, special with garlic toast. Super salad at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Dr. History, and Dr. History is brought to us by some really, really fine folks. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. You know, they're right across from the Burley Airport. Easy to find, easy to get to, easy to get everything you need. From windows and doors, garage doors, lumber, carpet, vinyl, metal siding. My goodness, it's all there for you. And they also are a distributor for the best Tartar Ranch and farm equipment. They've got all the cattle handling equipment, the water tanks, and just everything. Stop in and see Zach and Joanne today at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091. And right now it's time for a pre-recorded Dr. History. Right now, we're going to be visiting with a man that absolutely believes in reincarnation. As a matter of fact, in his former life, he was a cavalry bugler. He used to be a bugler, but he made a bad mistake one day and lost his job forever in the Army. When they had told him to play charge on the bugle, he signaled retreat, and they ran over all the generals, and thus he got drummed out of the Army. Here he is, Dr. History.
Now, that's an original one there, Zeb.
I had to think about that for a minute. I was under duress.
The trouble is, there's probably more truth to that than because my musical ability stops right about at the radio.
Have you ever tried to play a bugle?
You know, my brother is the band teacher out the Declo, and he can play anything and everything. And over the years, I've tried to play a horn, a trumpet, those things, and I can't blow like he blows.
Well, I'm telling you, when you play a trumpet or a bugle, it tickles. I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, you got to get your lips just right and everything, and I can't do it. It just sounds like a calf bellering when I try to do it.
Yeah, and when I was a little boy, I've told this before, my parents thought it was a neat deal when I was about 8 years old to take accordion lessons. That is inhumane and parental abuse when you have a fat kid learn how to play an accordion.
Could have been worse. Could have been bagpipes. I mean, here's people that think they get music out of anyway.
You'd be better off when you're milking a cow trying to get some music out of it.
That's right.
Hey, what do you got for us today?
Well, I'm going to tell you about a half-breed Indian that was either crazy or really, really brave.
Do we get a chance to pick?
You can, when we get done, you can decide which way you want to go with this guy.
Okay.
So, anyway, his name was Pierre Garou.
Pierre Garou.
Garou, and you'll see why here.
Okay.
He actually was one of the most daring and kind of picturesque figures of the fur trading days. And the reason he was named what he was is because he was the son of a Turtle Mountain Frenchman and a Cree woman.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a half-breed, but I've got a picture of him here, and he looks totally Indian.
I see.
I mean, he doesn't look French at all, but he was born in the Turtle Mountain country about 1798, so quite a while ago.
Where's the Turtle Mountain country?
I got to looking at this, and I thought, I didn't look it up. I'm not sure where we're talking here.
Turtle Mountain, I've never heard of that.
I'm just not sure, but we're going to talk about the Assiniboine Indians, so I'm thinking it's got to be, maybe the Dakotas or somewhere out this way.
Yeah, okay.
Turtle Mountain. I'll have to look that up, but I'm not sure.
All right.
But anyway, he was born 1798, so, this goes back quite a ways. When he was a young man, he went with his mother to the Missouri country, so he lived with her for a while, and she was a Cree Indian, so I guess that's kind of where we can start, is Missouri. But anyway, in 1831, Garou was made a member of one of the keelboat crews, and all the robes and pelts that were taken down to St. Louis, and on the return trip, the boats brought back loads of goods for the Indians, and Pierre, or Garou, went on several of these trips. Well, after one of these trips, he stayed in St. Louis for 3 or 4 years and worked in a bakery. Now, this doesn't sound like much of a beginning for a guy as I get on with the story here. But he went to a place called Fort Clark. Now, again, I'm going to think that that's probably up in Missouri there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he was to act as its hunter, and his task, of course, was to keep the fort supplied with fresh meat.
I see.
Well, Garou and a French employee of the fort decided they were going to go out and get some meat. So they camped in a little depression where there was good grass and water for the horses, and it was here that they were ambushed just at daylight. A volley of gunfire came from some high ground, and it killed his buddy, his partner, immediately. Well, Garou jumped up. He threw his gun out into the grass, and he held his hands up in the air, and he had a nickname which was called Long Hair, and I'm not sure why.
He had long hair?
Well, not according to this picture I'm looking at.
Oh, okay.
He didn't. But anyway, he threw his gun out, and he stood up, and he says, I don't know who you are, but I'm Long Hair, and he said, come get me. I don't want to lie here and just get shot. Well, the party proved to be 17 mounted Assiniboine Indians, and it was led by a famous chief called Redstone.
Now, wait a minute. Stop here.
Okay.
We have one man stepping up, throwing his gun out in front of him and saying, I've had enough, come here. Now, this guy, I think absolutely I can answer your question, he's nuts.
Okay. Well, he was giving up. He was surrendering.
Oh.
So, you know, he wasn't going to take him on. He just didn't want to get shot. So, but this group was led by a chief named Redstone, and they were pretty happy at their easy capture of this guy. Evidently, he had a bit of a reputation as a great hunter.
I see.
Well, they started to tie his hands behind him, and he said, no. He says, I'll go without being tied. Well, this kind of pleased the Assiniboine Indians, and the whole party headed north toward their village, and they had Guru marching on foot between a couple of riders. And as was their custom, when there was no immediate danger, they stopped for a rest and to smoke the pipe. And they squatted in kind of an irregular circle, and a young warrior filled the pipe and passed it to the chief.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Guru, as a prisoner, had been placed inside the circle.
Yeah.
Now, if you can picture this, he's kind of squatting down there inside the circle. The Indians around him, they've lit the pipe. And the young man in charge of the job of lighting the pipe, he goes to give it to the chief, the Redstone.
Right.
Well, okay, so Guru, now, this is where maybe the bravery or the craziness, he jumps up, grabs the pipe, and says, I'm going to smoke first. I am the chief here.
Oh, wait a minute. This sounds like wacky tobacco to me.
Well, I don't know how much or what was in the pipe, but, you know, so Redstone, the chief, he jumps up, raises his tomahawk, but Guru must have been pretty fast, because he struck the chief's wrist and sent the tomahawk flying, and at the same moment, he grabbed the chief around his waist, just below the ribs, and evidently this guy was pretty strong, because he held the chief really strong with his left hand. With his right hand, he grabbed a gun from Chief Redstone and held it against Redstone's body. So now picture this. Here's the Indians around him. Here's Guru standing there with his arm around the chief and a gun pressed to the chief's chest or head or whatever. So anyway, his bravery pretty much kind of paralyzed the whole band of Indians. They just sat there like statues.
Now, just a minute, Doc. I mean, doggone it all. We got to back up here. We got 17 Indians that are underneath old Chief Redstone, right?
Right.
I got a feeling they're going to be unemployed.
Well, you know, this guy jumped up so fast and caught him off guard. They just sat there. And, you know, Redstone's probably thinking, do something, but again, Guru had a gun pointed at him, and so Guru stands up and he says, okay, you guys, you want to shoot, you go ahead and shoot, but I'm ready to go, and I'm going to take somebody with me, and it's your chief. I'm not going to go alone. I want somebody that's brave to go with me, and I'm going to take Redstone with me. Well, after a long pause, one of the warriors said, okay, we don't want to kill you. And Guru said, well, if you don't kill me, I won't kill your chief, but you got to start off on the prairie, and when you're out of sight, I'll let your chief go. So here we have 16 Assiniboine Indians. They get up slowly, they head towards their horses, and Guru, again, you got to wonder about craziness or smart, but he says, no, those horses are all mine. To pay for my partner you killed this morning, so you take all your things, but you leave those horses for me.
Maybe the guy absolutely was overplaying his hand of deuces here, do you suppose?
Well, you know, I would have thought, okay, get on your horses and get away as fast as you can. But
good thinking.
No, he's saying, you leave your horses. Those are mine. 16 horses.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have, their chief was still in Guru's grip. With a gun held on him, and his fate obviously depended on their next move. So the Indians went over, they took off their saddles, their bridles, their gear, and they started walking away, leaving their horses. Well, when they were out of sight, Guru released his grip on Redstone and said, okay, now Redstone, you can get on your horse and go tell your people, talk to them and tell them that what one brave man did all alone to 17 Assiniboine Indians.
Now, I think that right there you got to stop, because I think there might be something lost in the translation when they get back to the teepees.
Yeah, you think Redstone's going to say, yeah, I don't know. He may embellish it to his favor.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, but he's got 16 witnesses, too, that are going to say, yeah, our chief was held by this guy. So anyway, this event really increased Guru's fame. I mean, everywhere he went, he was kind of honored, and even children used to follow him. But Guru was actually really a good guy. I mean, he was honest, he was moral, he was just a good guy.
He's crazy.
He was entirely without education. He couldn't even write his own name. He was a devout Catholic. Now, this is the next story I'm going to tell you is something else he did that was, again, you got to wonder about craziness or bravery. 1886, a war party of Dakota Indians rode out of the hills and came up to destroy a trading post at Fort Berthold. Okay, they rode to within a short distance of the fort, got off their horses, about 100 warriors, holding their blankets around their necks. They came to the front gate, and they squatted in a big circle. Well, they began to work themselves up into a fury, getting ready to attack this fort. Well, about this time, Guru came out of his room, and he was dressed in black pants, blue shirt, red sash around his waist, a red handkerchief around his head, and he had two long, bright knives. Mm-hmm. And he basically told him, he says, I'll go out there and I'll stop what's going on. And he told the people, he said, every Indian out there has a lariat underneath his blanket, and in a few minutes, they're going to throw those lariats over the fort, and they'll be in here faster than you can shake a stick. But anyway, so they opened up the gate, and Guru rushed out. He jumped over into the circle of the Dakota warriors.
Yeah.
Now, this sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, this guy is absolutely not playing with a full deck of cards.
Well, so here he is in the middle of 100 Dakota warriors.
100?
Little war whoop, and he yelled, he says, I like to hear you brave men talk. He says, I'm a brave man myself. And he stopped before one of the warriors, and he boasted. He said, I killed your brother. And he says, his scalp hung in my room. Anyway, and then he went on to say, I've lived in your country for a long time. And he says, I've never found anybody as brave as me. He says, I'm looking for somebody here that I want some man to take one of these knives, and I'll take the other, and we'll see who's the bravest.
He sounds like Mayor Bloomberg from New York.
Well, he's an interesting guy. So here he is strutting around this circle, offering a knife to each of the Indians in turn, 100 of them, and none of them would take the knife. Not one of them. So anyway, then he started taunting them, telling them that they were old women. And again, the Dakotas were taken so back they couldn't even answer. So not one of them took up his challenge. The war party was at an end. And in 30 minutes, they'd mounted their horses and were headed towards the hills.
Now, wait a minute, Doc. I've always respected your stories as being, very historically close to fact and everything. But when you tell me one guy jumped in the middle of 100 warriors and started saying, I killed your brother and I'm going to do the same to you. Come on now, Doc. This is bordering on Hollywood here.
Well, everything you read has got to be absolutely true, right? So this came from actually I have a patient that brought me a whole stack of true Western magazine stories, and it's out of one of those, so that'll be true.
Oh, my goodness. So anyway, he saved the day.
Yeah. And to finish off the story here, Pierre actually was married at one time, and he had 3 sons.
I just had something really funny to say, but I'm not going to.
Okay. Don't go there.
Okay.
So Guru he had 3 sons, and they later lost their lives in warfare with the Sioux. They were returning from a hunt when they were kind of towards the back of the pack, and one of their pack horses threw its load of meat and ran off. And so the 3 brothers had stopped behind the main party, and they were trying to catch the horse and one thing another and repack the horse with the meat. Well, the 3 young men did not come back, and so a well-armed party with Guru at the head started out to search for them. Well, near the place where the boys had separated from the main group, The party found them. They had been scalped, their bodies riddled with arrows, and so obviously another group of Indians, they don't know really, it doesn't say who, had killed his 3 sons. So, and this was a real tragedy for this guy, and obviously, and by that, and that really shook him up actually. And anyway, he went back to the fort, and his end kind of came in kind of a sad way at age, well, he would have been about 83. It was 1881. He was living alone in a cabin there at the fort, and somehow his cabin caught on fire, and he was not able to get away, and they found him dead just inside his door. He probably died from smoke inhalation. But here was Pierre Garou. He contributed a lot to the West's story of bravery, and courage. Again, he was either crazy or really, really brave. But and as I mentioned, he was a good guy. He was honest. He was moral. Didn't have bad habits. He's just a good guy.
What about his wife? You never ended the story. I mean, she must have been something else like Superwoman to be married to him.
There's not one thing that mentions about him getting married.
Well, you just...
Now I'm assuming that he did.
Oh, okay.
He had 3 sons, so, being a moral guy, and I said he was a very devout Catholic, and I'm just going to assume that he had to have been married.
You know what happens when you assume.
I know. I'm just giving him the benefit. I mean, he's a good guy.
Okay.
Very brave guy. And
can you imagine, seriously, think about this, being married to a guy that is going to jump into the middle of 100 fighting warriors with just 2 knives? Now, that lady absolutely had to question her choice.
That's true. Although, if you wanted protection, that would have been your man. If you think about the Indian stories about Indians, they respected somebody that was brave. I mean, bravery was a huge thing in the Indian lore and the Indian culture.
Yeah, but they also were afraid of crazy people, and they left them alone, too.
That's true. So I don't know which way they went with this guy.
Remember in Jeremiah Johnson, the movie, and the woman that had lost her family, and she went nuts, and the Indians wouldn't bother her because she was crazy. Well, it sounds like old Pierre had a pretty good thing going for him. He was either tough or crazy, and they didn't know which card to pull.
Yeah. Well, it's like the story you like to remind me about the naked mountain man who went chasing towards the Indians, and they thought he was crazy.
No, he was crazy.
He was crazy. No doubt about that.
I don't know where you dig some of this stuff up, but I had never heard of Pierre. What was his name?
Garou.
Garou.
I'm not sure if I'm saying that right because it's French.
Okay.
I'm assuming, but like I say, I've got a patient that brought me a whole stack of these True West magazines, and I'm just kind of going through them. They go back clear to 1963, and I'm just kind of going through those and finding some stories.
Well, I tell you what, it's a good thing you're not a psychiatrist instead of a chiropractor, because then I'd really be worried.
I would have been analyzing this guy. So, you know what? In the course of telling this story, my good Kim's secretaries, both of them are named Kim, found out where the Turtle Mountains are.
And let me take a guess, okay? Because while you said that, I was thinking about that, and I think the Turtle Mountains are over in Colorado.
Nope. They are. They're actually a portion of the state of North Dakota and kind of a southwestern part of the Canadian province of Manitoba.
Really?
Yeah. So it's way up north there. There's actually the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation up in there. Just looking at what they gave me.
Okay.
There was coal mining up in that area. That's where it's at. It's up there in North Dakota, Manitoba.
And see, you have a crack staff of people that are sharp as fishing hooks that can go out and get this information and find out about Pierre Garou.
Well, when I say something like, I don't know, they're immediately on the internet.
They drop everything. Patients are led to be in suffering because they're going to get the information about the Turtle Mountains.
You know where the priority is.
Okay, now that we've talked about a guy that's absolutely crazy, Pierre Garou, what about next week? Who are you going to try to top this story with?
Well, you know, I found another story in one of these magazines about another guy that had to be a little crazy, too. Crazy as in, like a serial killer.
Yeah.
And this also happened up around Vancouver, up in the Canada area, and it's about a lost gold mine.
You know what we ought to do, though, Doc, seriously? Next week, next Tuesday, we're just getting underway with the Cassia County Fair. Let's do something on the fair.
Well, and you know, actually, as I thought about that, I thought about maybe doing something on rodeo, history of rodeo.
There you go.
And I do have some stories about some rodeo events and how they got started and one thing another. So I may just do something about rodeo next week.
You know, I could tell a story about a chiropractor that's got a warped sense of eating values with maple bars and bacon.
Yeah, well, you know, you laughed about it till I brought them to you.
Oh, they're good. They're good. Listen, God bless you, man. That was great. You and Pierre enjoy your afternoon kind of showing your knives back and forth, okay?
We'll do it.
Okay, have a good one. See you later. Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner. I love that segment. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. Now, of course, we've heard that one before, but we thank very much Dr. History and Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley, bringing you Dr. History. And next week, we'll be live and direct on the program. No more reruns, no more repeats. And we want to say thank you very much to Minnecasia Sales. They have what you're looking for: windows, doors, garage doors, carpet, vinyl, all your farming and ranching equipment, the panels, the cattle handling equipment. All you have to do is stop in. 1321 East Main in Burley. The number to call, 878-2091. Real fast, before we send it back over to our main studios, I want to remind you, too, about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Boy, you want to feel better? You want to absolutely stretch those muscles out and all those kinks out and feel better from maybe an accident or whatever? Well, they can help you get back to being you. All the exercises, all the sports medicine. They got the hydro pool for the therapy. It's absolutely wonderful. Nick Greenwell and the rest of the crew taking care of you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, 678-1191. Call them today. Right now, back over to our main studios. We'll be right back.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Thank you very much. And right now, before we go to our guest, I want to remind everybody about our two sponsors of Cassia County School Days, and they are, of course, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Don't forget, they've got all the warm coats for the wintertime, all the games for the kids, just everything, along with all the Cherokee and Dickie scrubs and shoes, everything for you and your family at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. Along with also the Ambulatory Surgery Center, carpal tunnel surgery, knee pain, colonoscopies. Save money on your surgeries and call them today at 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and we have with us on the phone a guest that absolutely I get more calls and more emails about. Please have him back on the air. He's so informative, and that's Mr. Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative, with us on the program this morning. Brian, good morning to you.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing?
Well, I think my audience is nervous and really questioning where we're at with our security underneath this Obama administration, especially when we see kind of a revolving door policy with the bad guys being released. And I said something early this morning, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong. By doing the releasing of the bad guys, like in the Bergdahl situation and some other situations, aren't we just encouraging the terrorists, whether they're Al-Qaeda, whether they're ISIS, whether they're any kind of group or single lone wolf atmosphere, aren't we encouraging them to take more hostages and then demand for more release of their bad guys?
Well, sure, Zeb. I mean, that's one of the problems that you face when you go down that road. If you have a strict policy, that we do not deal with terrorists and that we do not negotiate with terrorists, then they come to know that policy, and you don't run into these problems. Now, the question that is out there among intelligence analysts is, who is fostering this new policy? And the incidents that you mentioned are correct. First of all, we have Bo Bergdahl, and we released five guys from Gitmo, from Guantanamo Bay, 5 former Taliban officials for Bo Bergdahl's release. Then we did the Cuban deal, where we made friends with Cuba, and according to the president, overturned 50 years of policy that wasn't working. And in that deal, there was an exchange of prisoners too. Just recently, we've had the release of an Al-Qaeda operative by the name of Al-Mari, who was in a Supermax facility in Colorado, and it seems like there are indications that might have been a prisoner swap too. So you're absolutely right. If that's the case, then that encourages other states like Qatar. Now, Qatar was the one that apparently came to the administration and said, well, you want these people in Qatar released, but you've got this Qatari who was an Al-Qaeda guy, and if you release him, we'll release them, that kind of thing. So the question I have is, who is initiating this policy? Is it the administration, or did the administration make a mistake and now they're paying for that mistake? And I don't have the answer to that one yet, Seth.
I just don't understand the philosophy of this administration. I don't understand why they have to close Gitmo. I don't understand why they want to bring the vermin of these terrorists here to this country and infiltrate them into our federal prisons. I don't understand why they want to afford them more luxuries and give them more rights in the court system. I don't understand.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. I don't understand that either, and it's so typical of this administration. I suppose we could look and we could say, well, the president is leaning to his leftist base. He ran on a policy of having defeated Al-Qaeda and killed Osama bin Laden, and Al-Qaeda is on the run. He ran on a policy where he's made the assertions over and over and over that Gitmo causes terrorism, like it's the single most important cause of terrorism today, and that the fact that Gitmo is there drives Muslims to become terrorists. And that's simply not true. I mean, it may be true in a couple of cases, but it certainly isn't the driving force. So I guess we could see where he's trying to cater to his leftist base, especially as the 2016 election looms. One of the problems with this whole Gitmo thing, Zeb, and one thing that may be an indication of where he intended to go with Gitmo when he released Bergdahl. The whole Bergdahl thing was just a fiasco, and just a foreign policy fiasco. I mean, he released a guy that that came from a squad where all of his squad members said the guy was a deserter, and yet the president had a celebration and on the South Lawn with Bergdahl's parents there, and making a big deal out of him, saying he served honorably when all the facts pointed differently. So what might be a possible explanation? Well, one of the possible explanations is he's been saying he's going to close Gitmo down for years. And since he was able to take 5 Taliban guys and swap them for Bergdahl, that was his first hand in the poker game. That was his first hand of, starting to bet that he was going to be able to close Gitmo. And he's just gone great guns ever since then. I mean, that was his opening move, and now he's releasing prisoners from Gitmo on a regular basis, and, by most estimates, he's going to get to the point where he's going to say, well, we're just going to close the whole thing down. Worse yet, Zeb, is that it looks like he may have a plan to actually close the entire naval facility down and hand it back to Cuba, which would be just a foreign policy fiasco, but wouldn't be beyond the pale with this president, Zeb.
Why in the world, this discussion on where to put these people is absolutely ongoing, but to incorporate them and bring them into a federal prison system to where they could actually indoctrinate more people into their insidious ways, I don't understand that, nor do I understand, these are the vermin of the earth. These are the people that would do anything to pick up a AK-47 and kill anybody and everybody in their eyesight. I do not understand why this administration can't treat them for the absolutely filthy human beings that they are.
Well, I agree. I agree 100%. And, the situation is even worse than that, because it's not just a matter of the prisoners in Gitmo. I mean, the president's actions and the comments of the administration sort of indicate that he believes that, or his official policy, ideological policy statement is that, the war on terror is really winding down. And so therefore, we're just cleaning up some of the stuff like this Gitmo facility. But Zeb, that's patently untrue, as all of your listeners know. ISIS is raging. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula is, has come out with new, its new issue of Inspire magazine that gave one of the most powerful explosives recipes to anybody in the world who wants to use it, that can be made from things that you can have just around the house. And they made it specifically for that. They are competing with ISIS for relevancy as far as who's going to lead the jihad. And so they're both threatening the United States, attacks in the United States. In fact, in the last 2 days, Zeb, ISIS has specifically threatened attacks in the United States. That's a ramping up of the terrorist threat. While the president seems unimpressed by any of this, seems to think that, the stuff going on in Iraq and Syria is just a sectarian issue, not really anything that, is worldwide or global that we really have to deal with. And the Middle East has fallen down around him. King Abdullah in Saudi Arabia just died. Yemen is not only is it in chaos, but it's in chaos controlled by an Iranian client called the Houthis. So the Houthis have taken over Yemen, which puts a kibosh on all of our counterterrorism efforts in Yemen against Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. It puts our ally Saudi Arabia in an Iranian pincher movement, and yet the president is unimpressed and believes that everything's kind of winding down, and he all he needs to do is just clean up Gitmo, and everything will be okay.
I just don't know what to think anymore, Brian. You've got the training, you've got the knowledge, and you were on the ground around these people, and you understand what's happening with the bad guys trying to take over the world. Why won't this president, and I've asked this question of you before, and every newscaster that's worth his salt is asking this question, why won't this administration, why won't this president, why won't the spokesman Josh Earnest, what are they so afraid of that they will not say Muslim terrorist or Islamic terrorism? What is there that these insidious devils have over our heads that the administration almost acts like they're afraid to make a condemnation against them?
Yeah, well, I don't think it is that they're afraid, Zeb. I think that they are ideologically aligned with these folks. Now, there are a couple of aspects to it. One is that, the president certainly hasn't shied away from, killing terrorists with drone strikes. Mm-hmm. But that's a very antiseptic, that's a very arm's distance sort of thing where he can say, okay, you guys in the intelligence community and special operations, launch your drones, kill those guys, keep them at bay over there so that I don't have to worry about it here, and I can put my domestic ideological policies into place. So he hasn't, shied away from killing them. He just hasn't really strategically addressed the problem. One of the reasons is because he's not interested in foreign affairs. He's interested in his domestic policy. But another reason is because in his foreign policy, he actually developed the policy that was created off of what they call the Presidential Study Directive, Presidential Study Directive 11, as a matter of fact, which came out in July of 2010, which aligned his administration with the Muslim Brotherhood against Hosni Mubarak in Egypt and against leaders, the old autocratic leaders in the Middle East. And his reasoning was, well, the Muslim Brotherhood is a new movement. They're oppressed. They've been oppressed by all these autocrats. All these autocrats are just old guys who we've been, supporting for years and years and years, and they don't have very democratic governments. And by golly, we're going to shake things up and change the whole thing around. Well, he tried that, of course, and the Muslim Brotherhood, immediately tried to launch, a Sharia state in Egypt. And the Egyptians rose up and threw him out of power, and so it hasn't worked for him. But and then he ran on the policies, as you remember, he ran on the policy of, Osama bin Laden is dead and Al Qaeda's on the run, and so everything about his policy has been wrong. Now, for a president to then change and say, "Man, we got a problem. We've got a problem with ISIS. We've got a problem with the resurgence of Al Qaeda. We've got a problem with Islamist terrorism." That goes against everything that he's done in the last 6 years, and he'd basically have to say, I am an immense failure. I have really screwed up people, and now we've got to turn things around. And I don't know many politicians that are willing to step up and admit that kind of mistake, Zeb.
I get the feeling watching the national news, and I don't care what network you're on, when they start talking about Iran and how we've made concessions and we've basically kowtowed to their stalling tactics. And all the while they're stalling, all the more they're putting into their nuclear program. I look at Yemen. I look at the devastation that's going on there. We're losing any kind of if this expression is not right, I'll stand corrected, kind of a stepping stone policy to where we've got some allies over there somewhat that we could utilize in a time of emergency. I don't know where we'd go right now because of the mess that this administration's caused.
Oh, absolutely. I think if we're in worse shape as far as foreign policy and leadership and coalitions in the Middle East than we've been since probably the end of World War II. We've actually, and it hasn't happened that these folks have fallen off based on external influences. They have fallen off because basically they have lost trust and lost faith in the government of the United States. So they have decided they have to go their own way. So, amazing things have happened in the Middle East that you just don't hear about. You don't hear much in-depth strategic analysis anymore, Zeb. But, it's gotten to the point where, it used to be Israel was the pariah state, and all the Middle Eastern states wanted to get Israel. Now it's at the point where Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, they're all sort of cooperating with Israel against their archenemy Iran in the area because they're scared to death of Iran and they don't think the United States is doing anything about it. In fact, they think that, just as you said, that the United States is kowtowing to Iran and allowing it to go nuclear. So, and then, of course, one of our major stepping stones in the Middle East, our major partner was Israel. And you can see the degree of damage that we have in the relationship between the United States and Israel, given with this big scandal recently that Netanyahu is going to be coming to Congress and talking about the Iranian problem, and the president wasn't included in that decision. So relations between Israel and the United States, despite what the claims of the administration that they're very close and that we work very closely together, are very far apart, and we don't work very, very closely together. And so I think you can lay the blame for that squarely on the administration, and it's just a chaos. It's a chaotic situation, Zeb.
When you look at Homeland Security, and you look at the FBI, and you look at the CIA, and you look right to the top rung on the ladder, and that's the Oval Office with Obama. Yesterday, good example, we had 3 flights diverted in the United States. One as close to us as Seattle, a SkyWest flight, because of possible and potential bomb threats against those airlines and against those flights. And every day, the increased threat to American citizens, because these guys know that there's not really going to be any retribution against them. How safe or unsafe are we with these agencies that are supposed to be out finding the bad guys?
Well, it's really problematic, and it's problematic from a couple of point of views, Zeb. On one point of view, the poor guys, the guys in the security agencies, the FBI, police officers, even CIA for that matter, have been enjoined, have been prevented from actually understanding the problem. As you just brought up recently here in your comments, that the president and the administration say that the Islamic State has nothing to do with Islam. That Al-Qaeda, who very well describes itself as a Salafi jihadi organization, Salafism being a very particular and legitimate strain orientation of Islam, has nothing to do with Islam. That the Muslim Brotherhood was basically a secular organization when it is in fact a Salafi organization that has everything to do with Islam. Their whole orientation is an Islamic orientation. So in 2010, the administration basically said, we're not doing that anymore. We're not having anything to do with Islam and terrorism. Of course, remember, this was at exactly the same time the Presidential Study Directive 11 came out, and they turned towards the Muslim Brotherhood for their foreign policy in the Middle East. So how could you say that the Muslim Brotherhood was an enemy organization and the organizations in the United States were bad if you are turning to the Muslim Brotherhood and installing them in Egypt and other places around the Middle East? So because of that, we've basically taken the whole radical Islamic equation out of the mix. So what does that mean? That means that security officials don't know who the enemy is, and not only don't they know, they're not allowed to go there. It's against policy. So we look for violent extremists. Well, you can't preempt violent extremists because, like I've mentioned on your show before, there is no corner store or any union building that's the Violent Extremist Union or the Corner Violent Extremist Association. Now, you might very well find radical mosques, radical organizations, Muslim Brotherhood organizations that facilitate foreign fighters to Iraq and Syria and places like that, but you can only go after them and find them if you understand that you're looking for something that has to do with radical Islam. And since we can't do that, that puts us in a world of hurt.
Absolutely.
The Department of Homeland Security never reached any of its goals since its inception. A recent report came out and said its 5 major responsibilities are all failures. They failed at every single one of them. So the Department of Homeland Security, you have to just basically put aside and not put your hopes on the fact that the Department of Homeland Security is going to save the day. So what we've become is a reactionary country. We wait for attacks. We're not trying to preempt the attacks. In fact, while we're waiting for the attacks, we're poo-pooing the idea that attacks are really coming because we're kind of getting over this whole war on terror, and all we need to do is close down Gitmo.
Mm-hmm. John, I appreciated, Brian, so much that you being on the program this morning, and there's a lot of questions left for this segment, but I don't have the time this morning. I'm going to ask you to come back in a few days and keep on that thought and that vein of thought. Thank you so much, Brian Fairchild, dear friend and a former CIA operative. God bless you for being on the program, and I'll be in touch.
Okay, Zeb, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Wow, I learned so much when you listen to him. We've got to quickly get the weather in, and the weather's brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats, and they're located at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657, offering the best of beef, pork, lamb, and processing of wild game, and they guarantee everything that they sell, and they sell taste one bite at a time. You better believe it. Excellence at Scarro's Meats. Here now, Michael Rogers. Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Get some rain today. You do a slight chance of it. It's going to kick in later on. Good chance you're going to see some rain today. Slight chance turns into rain later on tonight. Temperatures 46 with the high, 35 for the overnight low. It'll continue until tomorrow, and then you'll start to slowly work your way out of it. But it'll be mostly cloudy from, say, Wednesday night all the way through Friday, Saturday. So pretty good temperatures all the way through the week. It's going to be in the 40s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Scarrows Meats, locally owned custom meat processor serving all of southern Idaho for over 20 years. Quality products at very reasonable rates. Scarrows Meats. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, thanks to Brian Fairchild for being on our program this morning, and I'm going to try to reschedule him again and have him back in a couple of days. He's absolutely phenomenal with his knowledge. I want to also say thank you to our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor, and we certainly appreciate all the efforts that they give us with the best of tires, the best of traction tires, and the best of brake service. By the way, if you haven't been in there, the best brake value promise in the industry, professionally trained technicians, and they know brakes. And, of course, the best in front-end alignments, and shocks and struts, and batteries. Make sure you check your battery. We've still got a whole bunch of cold weather left on the calendar. You better get in there and have that all checked out with the people that really care about your safe driving, and that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family over in Paul, and John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to feature quite a few different guests, and we're looking forward to having Doug Johnson on the air with us from Colorado. Doug's a real good friend of ours, does a lot of writing and speaking on a national level, and we're looking forward to his comments. And then also, along with some other guests, we're going to be looking at my dear friend from Indianapolis, Indiana, Dave Bigo, author and businessman extraordinaire. All of this and much, much more coming up on tomorrow's program. We'll saddle the horse and be ready to go at 8:06 tomorrow morning right here on KBAR 1230 and streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com, and look forward to all your phone calls. So there you go for a Tuesday, Zeb at the Ranch. You have a great day. God bless. The way things were are the way they ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.